Hello and welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me in another of my interviews. We're in 2024 now, and of course people are taking a little bit more seriously the whole prospect of what they eat and their health. We've seen over the last few years how important it is to be healthy, the immune system particularly, so that if we're fighting off any kind of diseases, that we are in tip-top condition. And many people, of course, are looking to go back to the land and actually grow organic food. It's very essential for us. The supermarkets, of course, are full of all that highly processed nonsense, but a lot of people are fed up with that, even though it's very convenient. But how easy is it to get off the ground and start growing? How easy is it to get a community together to do such a thing? Well, I've got a couple of lovely people to talk to about a Farmacy Co-op. That's pharmacy as in farm, as opposed to the medical intervention nonsense. A not-for-profit organic food network called the Somervalley Community Network. Paul and Ren join me now. Hello, Paul and Ren.
Hi, Richard.
Oh, yeah.
It's lovely to have you on the show. In the beginning of January, there is sunshine where I am. Apparently other parts of the country, not so. Good for an omen, I think, for growing, although we, of course, need a bit of rain as well to grow our own food. So welcome to the show. Now, I know that you're in the process of setting up the Summer Valley, what do we call it, community network, and you're in northeast Somerset, which is a lovely part of the world, where hopefully you do get a lot of sunshine and all of that, and I've been down there a lot. So before we get on to what your network is, tell me why and how you got into this passion for wanting to grow stuff, because I think a lot of people up and down the land are thinking of doing this, and it's quite a big enterprise to do, because a lot of people are entering it with the romantic idea that it's quite easy, that you just throw a few seeds on the ground and it grows and you can harvest your own food. So what's your story?
Oh, where do we start?
Where do we start? So,
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
We lived in India for a while. Between 2012 and 2016, we lived in India with two of our boys. And
Same a very rural part of India. Where
Lovely.
we had
Yeah,
to live
lovely.
off the land. Everything was very natural.
so we knew where our food was coming from. We knew where our water was coming from. Our boys were healthy. We had a good diet, and it was all sort of natural. You could feel the nutrition in the food.
And presumably you had plenty of sunshine as well.
Yeah,
unlike
Yeah,
the
that's
English
another
weather.
thing. That's another good thing about India. Yeah, it's
Yes.
plenty of sunshine, but there's but also not a lot of rain sometimes. So there is
Right. So you are juggling.
right as well. So, but a lot of things, most things were fresh, and we were always told as well by Ren's father-in-law not to actually eat off the streets because they didn't know where the water was coming from. So it was always, you were more conscious about where your food was coming from.
I think my parents were very, very conscious about how food was tampered with as well in India, injected with all sorts. So they were very, very wary of anything that wasn't grown,
Right.
either by us or by friends or by the neighbours, or we knew exactly where everything came from, that we ate or that we drank. And it was very,
that is fascinating, because when you compare it to over here, we almost, apart from in recent times where people are a bit more, but mostly a lot of the people have no worries about where their food comes from, and late at night there they are in some fast food chain having something which may be
we're
well cooked or not.
completely guilty of that as well. We came back to England and fell straight back into the old ways, and became very ill. Children became ill.
So one of our children had eczema from head to toe every time they came back to England, and we thought it was his diet, we thought it was the milk, and we suddenly realised it was the water.
From the taps.
We had to have the whole house sort of the water filtered, so that even the water he was bathing in was distilled. So that and that made a massive difference, but it took months. to figure out that's what it was. You know, the milk constipated one of the boys. It was endless. It was an endless. Paul had a lot of problems, but that was not food related.
That was more environmental. So I started a job as an operations manager. I was working out in India as an IT, sort of doing all the IT in a school out there. And I came back and I worked for a housing organisation where we implemented Wi-Fi. So we ripped out all the desktops, and then we put in all these access points all around the office. So then everyone was on a laptop, plugged in Wi-Fi. So I basically, after about a couple of weeks, I started going grey.
Wow.
And
you're not an old fella.
No, I looked a lot older then, to be honest.
He started going grey in the face as well.
Yeah, and but I realised I was managing a load of people, and I couldn't talk to people in the office. I felt like I couldn't get my words out. So I went back, and when I was working from home, I was fine. So eventually I just wrote the job off. I wrote the job off as stress. You know, it must have been stress related. Got onto the job fine, and I wasn't in that sort of environment anymore, so I was fine. But then I got talking to a lot of people and got involved with just doing research basically. And it was almost like I didn't want it to be to do with Wi-Fi or 5G, because I worked in IT. I was pro everything at the time. I was like, you need this technology.
Yeah.
It was your livelihood.
Yeah, it was my livelihood.
Well.
I didn't know what I was going to do if I didn't pursue it. So
you poo-pooed it.
Yeah, but then around the house, what we had was we had in the kitchen, we had an electric flooring, and every time we switched it on, I couldn't relax in that kitchen. So I did a process of elimination, because my son used to grind his teeth at night, and in our old house, we one night I just decided to switch off all the electric, so Wi-Fi, everything switched off, and it was the best night's sleep I've ever had in 20 years.
And
the
boy didn't grind his teeth.
Wow. I was interesting you said that, because my partner Julia and I turn the electric off at night.
Yeah, it's a really good
everything. So and we do sleep well.
Yeah.
But that's I mean, I couldn't say that I've had anything that I would notice. But if you, as you say, if your kid is not grinding his teeth and you're managing to sleep, it is making a huge difference. Which it's very difficult to get that message across to people, how this is affecting us, and some people more than others.
Well, I think unless you're not in that environment, so because everyone's just been in this environment, and I think everything's got more over the years, you sort of you evolve with it. But when you're out of the environment, you come back into it, then you feel it a lot more. It affects you a lot more, I think.
Yeah. I mentioned a story to you that before we recorded, that somebody had said to me, if somebody from 200 years ago stepped through a portal and started to work in the city, they would probably die quite quickly from the various toxic. I mean, not only just the Wi-Fi, but from the water and what they're breathing from what's being pumped out industrially. It would be a huge shock to their system, because 200 years ago, so much was clear. I mean, admittedly, water you probably still had to boil, but you weren't having lots of these chemicals and antibiotics and goodness knows what that's in it now.
Yeah.
So you came back and you realised that all of this, but I know you had a story in which you were helping distribute food.
Yes, we came back, and after all these shenanigans and everything else, suddenly we had a pandemic.
Yes.
And actually, during that, I think there was a bunch of us mums basically that got together, and we started. It was a friend of mine that really was heavily involved, but we all started volunteering, basically collecting food during the first lockdown, because there were all these children at home that were getting free school dinners and weren't, and a lot of young families really struggling, especially where we used to live. We were sort of sandwiched in between two quite low income areas, and we were in the perfect location to help. So during lockdown, we were going to supermarkets, coffee shops, sandwich places, just various food outlets, and collecting the food that they didn't sell. all their sort of best before, all their due date food, and redistributing it to families in need. And it got quite intense, didn't it?
Yeah,
to the point we were collecting, I think, every day.
I mean, our front drive was like a supermarket.
Yeah.
We just leave it all out.
Wow.
People would just.
So, I mean, it's amazing how much food that there is that sort of goes out to date or close to.
Huge amounts of food.
We were probably feeding 40 families a week just from that food.
Just from your, wow.
But then we suddenly realised that the food that was going quicker was all of the microwave dinners, the pastries,
ping food,
and we'd be left with all the veg. We'd be like, well, doesn't anyone want this veg?
Right.
It's,
that I mean, and of course, I suppose that's because we have been trained, as it were, or convenience to use the ready meals or the very near to ready meals, tins and things, rather than actually taking vegetables from the starting point and doing your own meals.
I think a lot of it's time as well, where people, two-parent family both working, and they've got to feed the kids, and people haven't got time to cook. Or
no.
It's so much more convenient. So people are living on convenience rather than, and I think that's what's affecting people's health. And I think I've been guilty with that as well. I think we all have.
But
I agree. Yeah, I mean, we did with the kids. I mean, if I could go back in time and not feed them that awful food that we did, the pizzas and stuff, believing you were doing the right thing.
Yeah.
So what did you do then with you've got all this dodgy food, highly processed food?
Well, we're stopping. We've actually moved out of Bath now, so there's not such a demand where we are. We're living in the countryside, so when we don't necessarily want to do that. What we want to do is
put that energy into something positive.
So this is where we met a group of people, lovely group of people, in Poulton, which is just outside of Bath, who are all sort of very health conscious. They're a part of a group already that were very health conscious. And I've been working with Danny at Farmacy Co-op. It was an F. For about a year, just helping him with his just volunteering for his website, because I thought his idea was brilliant. He was just trying to send that. It's a not-for-profit, and he wanted to send out veg boxes where people couldn't get organically grown veg. And I still thought, I wonder how we could find out how much veg we eat is local and what's growing in our local area. And so this is where Wren started. What was interesting is we moved right next to a borough of farms, so that there's farms as far as the eye can see. There's a lot of small holdings around, and Wren started speaking to the farmers. And what she was finding is, although they grow some veg locally, a lot of it is from other farms or other places in the UK. It's not necessarily all organic. So there's a mix match. You still don't, even if you buy from a local small holding or a local sort of farm, you're still not guaranteed that food is local.
Right.
So what my sort of thought was to, and I'm a techie, so what I wanted to do was basically create a website where we could promote all of these small holdings or all of these growers that are growing organic food and make it convenient, because everyone's living on convenience at the moment. If we can make it convenient as ordering online on the supermarket, then the demand for the growers will come in, because and it would help all of the local economy, because basically those growers will then get more people coming to their farms, and eventually I hope what would happen is we wouldn't need a website. Everyone would be connected locally, and they could just go to their local farms to get all their produce. But at the moment, I feel that and again, we need to do more research, but what we have researched so far is that even the local growers are struggling to grow all of the veg that's required. So it's trying to, I suppose.
And when you say they're struggling to grow the veg required by the local community rather than the demand from supermarkets.
Well, I think we've all been, everyone wants blueberries in December. Everyone wants bananas in December, whereas we don't necessarily grow them locally. They're either going to be grown abroad, or they're going to be grown in a certain other way. So it's it's sort of getting used to maybe going back to seasonal veg, but by knowing something's local, it's creating awareness, because as soon as it's picked, that's when you've got the most nutrition in that,
and flavour, of course,
and that's medicine. But when it's left on the shelf in plastic wrappers and it's been on there for 2 or 3 weeks, that nutrition's gone. So it's trying to make that connection again with people's food.
Yes,
trying to bring it back locally.
I mean, presumably, even though perhaps some of it's not organic, and it's grown perhaps with some assistance from pesticides or nitrates or whatever it is, it's far better than the stuff that's been in a van, grown in huge monoculture, and shoved in big fridges for ages until the very last minute in a supermarket. And presumably, if people are still just buying as local as possible, whether or not organic or not, the demand will increase. And as people become more used to that, they'll forgo having to get, because I think that's the thing with Julia and I, once we started to taste the meat and the veg that we buy from the farm shops, it just, even though my house backs onto a big supermarket, and I've not been in there for about 4 or 5 months now, because I just don't want to eat their food. I mean, I know it's not healthy, but it just tastes absolutely like cardboard. And so, you go and get a nice couple of pieces of steak or something, or if you're, only into veg, you buy some fresh vegetable. The difference is so palpable that why would you go back? Now, you've got the convenient, but the more you can, as you say, you can make it convenient, the far, far better it is for everybody.
Yeah. Well, it'll bring the prices down as well, won't it?
Yes.
It will make a massive difference for everyone, I think. And again, that's why working with Danny from Farmacy initially is really good.
Inspired us, really. It's inspired. Yeah. I think what's come from Farmacy is it's really inspired me and a lot of other people locally to do something. Although it's a national network, and he actually started off in Bakewell and just distributed veg boxes. It's just organically grown into a self-owned, a co-op which is owned by the people, the network all over the country. But I think where Farmacy is coming from is that they don't necessarily, they're only there until the local communities are set up. They're just providing the service to help local communities set up with organic veg.
Yes.
And then once that's set up, there'll be less of a need for a national network. But what it does provide as well is, say you've got a grower that's growing 20 acres of carrots and they've got a load of surplus, they could then sell back into the network that Farmacy's created, which is people owned, to distribute nationwide.
Yeah, absolutely. So are you thinking of growing yourself? Yeah,
the reason we moved to our house is we've got an allotment right next door. That was one of the main reasons that we moved. And it's literally, I can jump over my fence and get to my allotment, which is great. And we've already got pear trees there from the last person, so it's great.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, an apple tree.
So, but presumably you can't, I mean, a friend of mine has been on an allotment for like 20 years and does videos and things. And the thing that he says to me is that the problem is you can't sell it because of legislation. Is that a thing?
I don't know. It's interesting because we've got a friend who created a market garden out of her front garden and just invited people on to take the veg, but she didn't really get a demand for it.
Right.
But I'm thinking,
because I think it's different if you call it a market garden. I think you can sell.
Right. Okay.
And if it's an allotment owned by, say, the council,
she just said it's my front garden and I'm growing food.
Help yourself.
Would be freely available to anyone. I mean, wouldn't it be wonderful if everyone with a front garden did that?
I mean, even if they just took donations, and said, bung in what you can afford.
She was physically, she had quite some problems. So I think really she wanted people just to do the work, to volunteer, to help look at everything.
To grow.
And but it was there for anyone who needed it.
I thought it was a really good idea.
Yeah.
Well, I think the more of these ideas and schemes and opportunities, the better, because as you said, when you were in India, you were so aware of where everything came from. And I remember reading some years ago, where the author of this book said, why would you put anything in your mouth that you did not know the provenance of?
Yeah.
And because you just don't know where it's come from.
I remember, Richard, one time we used to pick blackberries in a local sort of area around Bath, and I'd be picking the blackberries, and this man comes over and he goes, "What are you doing that for?" "What do you mean?" He goes, "We can get them in Sainsbury's."
Like, from Spain or somewhere.
Yeah.
Well, and local blackberries are going to taste different to the Spanish blackberries, which have been grown on huge acreage, than that's something that's wild and local to you. Just as honey is, local honey, good for you if you suffer from hay fever and things like that. There's so much of that, and of course, small is so much more beautiful than giant scaled things which become more bland.
But it becomes more personal as well, doesn't it? It becomes it's ingrained in you a lot more. You're going to have that experience rather than it being a faceless entity that you go to every week. And
so this is a conversation that I know have been going on, and there was a company called Food for Change, who I think they've changed their name to Organity or Organic or something like that. And we're going to see a lady tomorrow actually about what they're doing, and they're setting up hubs all over the place.
Right.
But what they're doing is they're not growing; they are sourcing from growers and then distributing in a sort of private members club, so people get involved in putting the veg boxes together. So now the more of that sort of goes on, the more it seems to me, like with any veg box scheme, if you've got the convenience that your veg comes, you can order online, you're giving farmers or potential new farmers or people who've only got a front lawn the opportunity to start growing, especially farmers who are finding the money too difficult now to supply big monoculture, or dealing with supermarkets. If you're dealing with the end user in a much smaller way.
So that's the thing we find is a lot of these farmers, they're over 60 years old and they've got no one to hand it down to, and there's no interest. There's no interest because things have got harder.
They say their children, have gone on to do different things and they're not interested. I mean, there's, like Paul said, we're surrounded, literally, sort of one field over. There's Roger in his barn, and he's selling potatoes and carrots and parsnips, and he swaps goods with his friends down in Devon. So they're constantly exchanging goods. But it's great because I can just sort of pop 2 minutes away and get most of my veg off him.
But you're thinking 10, 20 years time,
who's going to be doing that?
Exactly, and one of the things that you mentioned earlier was the competition, that if you're all growing the same vegetables, or you're all pig farmers, then supplying locally becomes a bit of a problem because you've only got one or two products to supply rather than a nice range of stuff, which the old mixed farming days used to do. And I guess the soil in different parts of the country will also play a role in, some areas are better for potatoes, say, than for corn or something. I mean, it did strike me that we've got so much corn in huge monocultural fields, but it's all going to highly processed things like bread, whereas if you didn't have all that highly processed business, you wouldn't need quite so much swathes of land growing the sort of a crop which really isn't doing anybody any good, but you could use that land in a more market garden fashion with a whole variety of things. And when you see people like Tracy, I interviewed her, can't remember her surname now, and they've got polytunnels and they're growing, a huge variety of veg at different points of the year. You would think that you could get round that competition, even if the soil isn't perfect for everything else. And then you've got what's his name, Charles Dowding, with his no dig, and again he is growing an amazing range of vegetables. So it must be able to be done. It's just a question of getting the farmers to sort of come together in a co-op and say, well, I'll do potatoes and you do carrots.
It's a mindset, because I think what's happening is all the locals growers, they're all doing veg boxes, they're all doing something very similar and they're competing. But if we all sort of try to collaborate a bit more, Someone, like you say, will grow carrots, someone will grow potatoes, and they could all help each other and profit from each other. That might work a bit better, because at the moment I think the industry is too small. I think and we want to keep it small. So
yeah, that is the thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Too easy to escalate into in the end. You've got people like Riverford and Abel and Cole who do a national thing, and they do very, very well. But it would be a shame to see all the growers just supplying them and they become the number one veg box, even though they've got the distribution network.
Yeah.
Because it would be lovely to be able to get farm fresh from local farms, of course.
That is the tricky bit, I think, with getting the distribution network set up. That's a challenge at the moment, but we'll get there. I mean, we ordered off Riverford for years and years and years, because again, it's, you're getting good quality, it's convenient, it's easy. So it's just trying to do that, but locally.
Yes, I mean,
the demand is growing now. That's the good thing. People want it, whereas
yes,
and
their models are very, very good, because I have a Riverford box. It comes every Friday morning. It's here by 7 o'clock in the morning, which is incredible.
Yeah.
And I've got my veg for the week, or if I want meat or various things. And there's people like the Good Food Project, who I mentioned the other day. So there's more and more places to go, but and you can see that a small farmer who's trying to compete with that, it's very difficult, because Riverford they've got farms in France and other places. It's still organic, but it is bringing out of season stuff from England to you. But at the same time, it would be nice to see much more local stuff, and so you can go round the farm and see the vegetables.
Yeah, you're connecting with the earth again, and you know where your medicine's coming from. I think we're so disconnected at the moment, and that's what's causing all these illnesses.
Yes. But I don't think this is going to happen overnight, is it? I mean, this is going to be a gradual process in which we really need the supermarkets to lose their customers.
Yeah.
And because if they do lose their customers, I mean, the supermarkets in and of themselves, if they could lose their money-grabbing ethos, could be a great marketplace for all the local veg to come to, so that people could go back to shopping because of the car parks and everything else, but getting local veg, everything local, rather than the big national chains and huge brands with highly processed stuff.
So it wasn't long ago where basically all these big supermarkets killed the high streets, and before there was there was the butchers, there's the bakers, there was all in the
candlestick maker,
and it killed it off. And now they're trying to push 15-minute cities on us, when we already had that, but we had it in a good way.
Yes, absolutely. I know. That's the whole irony, isn't it?
Yeah, it's crazy, absolutely crazy.
So where are you at the moment then? Is your enterprise up and running? Can people locally come to you? What do you need? Do you need support? That sort of thing?
So at the moment we've got a small group of people that we've got two things. We're trying to we've got a 20 veg box challenge, which we want to get 20 subscribers from Farmacy, which we've done to bring in a network, but we're still struggling with a delivery driver. So we're looking for someone that drives maybe to Bristol to Birmingham regularly, who could do an extra pickup every 2 weeks and then come back down and deliver to the community. In the meantime, we're looking for people to help Ren, because Ren and a couple of others are doing it at the moment, is just go around all the local growers and asking, how can we help? How can we help?
What are they growing?
What are they growing
themselves?
How can we get their message out to make sure that they're getting as much from the local community as possible? I mean, the one thing that I've everyone's used to convenience. So my theory comes straight from an IT background, was to create a website that's so convenient that it beats the supermarket, so everyone will buy their local veg through a website.
Yes, because people are used to ordering from them and having them delivered.
Yeah. But also on that website, be transparent of showing where your veg is coming from, which is something that you don't get from a supermarket all the time.
No. Yeah, I mean, I think provenance is very important, so that even though you're harassed mum of 3 who's desperately trying to juggle the kids and get the ironing done and whatever else it is that they're doing, and just wants to shove something in the dreaded microwave, winning her hearts and minds is the biggest thing. But and showing people how easy it is to cook.
Yeah,
I mean that to me is another thing, because you can make, and we do this. I mean, we cook. Julia and I will cook, but we'll cook a big pot of something and freeze much of it, and then you'll have it, maybe next week. And when you want that instant, quick, heat it up on the stove, you've got something in the freezer.
Yeah, I think if we had a collection point if it grows, then what you could do is you could offer advice and cooking workshops and everything there, where people come and collect their food, and people can obviously do talks and things around that, growing food, cooking food, nutrition, health, gut health, things like that. You have people within that collection centre that can offer that help.
Definitely, because I mean, the farm shop that I go to, they have a huge range of frozen foods already, like pies and various things that kids can easily eat and are used to, but it is made with real ingredients. And so that that's another option, that if you can deliver to a farm shop, I mean, I get raw milk now delivered, but it's always a slight worry because it's got to be cooled and it's in the post, and you think, oh golly, is it going to come and has it all gone off sitting in some depot somewhere? But they pack it well, but it's all, you're paying through the nose for all that delivery and the ice packing and stuff. But again, so it's a huge challenge, but it's a humanitarian thing that we've got to do.
Yeah, and I think it's quite rewarding as well, especially if it's quite a wholesome project to be part of. And what my theory is that anyone involved would have access to free fruit and veg. So that's sort of, so you're almost getting into a bartering system again, where to do a couple of hours work a week, you'll get all your fruit and veg.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I've always thought that food is the real currency.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Rather than a pile of gold or fiat notes, promissory notes. When people are starving, they'll do anything for food.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting thing. Of course, what the other couple of points that we mentioned before we started filming was one that it's suggested people are talking about, what with the Dutch farmers in the Netherlands and much of the set aside that's going on, or the carbon offsetting that they're doing in the name of saving the planet. Of course, farmers are being told not to grow things, so the chances are there's going to be food shortages coming forward, which emphasises exactly what you're saying, that people have got to find new ways of getting food or start growing themselves.
And if you follow that narrative, I'm not saying you should, I don't think you should, but it's up to you. But if you follow the whole net zero narrative, it works to our advantage to have locally grown food, because it means you're not transporting your food all across several countries so someone can eat.
Exactly. Absolutely. And it's fresher and it's good for you. And I would argue you don't need so much of it, because you're getting the nutrients and vitamins from it, rather than having to have a pack of cornflakes that's had to have their vitamins added because the wheat that they grew had barely anything in it to begin with, or the corn, I should say.
Oh, it's total crap. From doing all this voluntary work and having all this supermarket food in our house, it was literally during 2020, first lockdown. We actually pulled our boys out of school at that point. I think on day one of lockdown, we deregistered
tried to
them.
get them to sit in circles and
we just thought it was going to be a bit strange, so we pulled them out day one of lockdown. So they were home, and obviously we're surrounded by all this food that is it's not food really, and they just got bigger and bigger and bigger. I think we all did. We just sort of gained weight gradually, but just from eating crap. And definitely, I find that when you're really focused, on having good food in the house, you don't waste anything. and you have less of it, like you said.
Well, you feel more full. I mean, we only have one meal a day.
Yeah.
I mean, we might have, we might have some nuts or something else as a little snack at mid-morning or something, or a piece of cheese or something. But one cooked meal, and that's it, really.
Yeah.
Which, and you don't find that, chocolates and all these other things. Yeah, they're nice as treats.
Yeah.
They're not an everyday thing, and it's a bit crappy, but if you have it once in a blue moon, it's a treat rather than just the normal thing. The other thing I wanted to mention was, and we discussed this off camera, was, of course, a lot of people have this rosy idea or this romantic concept that they'll go out one day, start growing, and there will be this amazing harvest. And of course, this is a massive learning curve for people, because you might be successful with a certain crop, depending on the weather, depending on the sun, depending on the water and the state of the soil, or you might not, and you may not know quite why it's failed, or it may just be mediocre.
Yeah, we had 1 year, we had a really bumper. Well, we started growing in lockdown. Again, we were growing out in our garden. We had a bumper crop. So then we got an allotment in Bath and a massive bumper crop down there. And then the second year, we got nothing.
Everything was a bit weird. Like the leeks had weird kind of pinky bits and little black spots in them, and we couldn't really figure out what it was that had done it. And then I remember 1 year we went away for a week. We had a motorhome, and we went off at some point in lockdown for a week or so, and came back and
we couldn't get out the front door. The
garden, it was like Day of the Triffids out there. There's just these courgettes had taken the whole garden.
Oh wow.
It was insane.
So this is where it's useful for people who've got some knowledge to be able to share that knowledge. So that if you're growing
stuff, we're still novices. We've only three years we've been growing. It's not long. You still need that experience. And like you say, Charles Dowding's a really good person to follow. Actually, he's really good at no dig, which is a really good method. What we use.
That was our allotment in Bath. He was down there a lot, sort of when they set that place up. But it's great moving out to the countryside, because a lot of our neighbours are in their sort of 60s and 70, and they grow everything.
They've grown it for years. You've got experience, the knowledge that it's still here, which is nice.
Well, that is to our advantage, isn't it? That people in the country do know these things, because they're in the country. Of course, you've got a lot of these shops. The little small shops have all shut down, and a trip to the supermarket is several miles these days in the car. So if you're able to grow the stuff, you're saving yourself. Then it does become convenient to grow and cook your own stuff.
Yeah. And also, I think there's going to be a new mix of I think a lot of technology has been suppressed from us, and I think that in the next sort of few years, you're going to see a lot of inspirational ways of growing new methods, new growing methods, using maybe technologies, frequency, vibration, sound. I mean, you've got electroculture, which is now coming back into the mainstream. So people are sort of experimenting with that. So there's a lot of stuff that I think, because if we the more people's focus is on it, the more things that people will find that there's other methods, there's other ways around things to grow bananas in December in a cold country, for example.
Rather than having them shipped over and all of that. And as you said earlier, using the greenhouse argument, or the greenhouse effect, or the net zero thing, saying, well, if you grow it here, you're saving the planet, aren't you?
Yeah.
And you're twisting it round to what it makes sense.
Yeah.
You've got a website, so I'm going to put that up because you're interested in getting interest on the.
Yeah, so what is there at the moment is a contact page. It's just people that if you want to get in touch, have any questions, or like you say, like it says, interested in a veg box or get involved, then just let us know. If you're in northeast Somerset or around Bath, even Bristol, we've got a big interest in Bristol as well. And you want to get involved, just drop us, get in touch, contact us on the webpage.
Well, I mean, that's great, because the thing is, you just never know who's out there who sees a video like this and has got either something to offer or wants to get involved and all of that, I'll put the link in the description, but it's somervalleycommunitynetwork.co.uk. I mention it because sometimes YouTube switches these links off for some reason. I'm not quite sure. And so it's embryonic at the moment, but I know that behind the scenes you're developing the website because you are a techie, chappie.
Yeah.
Oh, I've lost you. Where are you? There you go. So well, look, more power to you. I think that a lot of people are in the same boat in different parts of the country, and what is great is people are open now to sort of talking and sharing ideas, rather than perhaps in the past when it's like, oh, this is my business, I've got to keep it secret, we've got all of this. I think because of the situation we're in, it is a humanitarian situation, isn't it? So that we need people to grow. And if there is going to be problems with the big farmers and people just do not want to have some of these RNA antibiotics being put into the food chain, which seems to be coming on stream, and or doesn't want to eat the monoculture and the lack of nutrients in the food and all the other preservatives and goodness knows what, then the sharing of the knowledge of growing, of cooking, preserving, and indeed getting that to local communities is absolutely essential.
Yeah,
I think so. And it
makes sense.
Well, it's healing, it's medicine.
And that, yeah, absolutely. And then it saves having to go to your GP and wait 3 weeks for an appointment if you can just keep yourself in a state of fitness by having the right kind of food inside you.
Yeah.
Well, listen, guys, it's been really nice having you on the show in early January to kick off what is going on. What sort of things do you like to grow and have much success apart from the courgettes?
Courgettes, no problem. Kale, beans, leeks, broccoli, lots of different types of broccoli. Actually, I can't get so you've got purple sprouting because that comes out in the early spring. So you could have your winter crop and then your spring crop.
Well, I mean, again, that's another thing that people don't realise that things grow at different times. And that having strawberries when strawberries come out is much better than having them in December when they've come out some other side of the world. And that you can have all these different.
Well, it's good to have a chest freezer as a backup as well.
Well, yeah. Well, this is it. That's
I find that very useful because he tends to grow it and I tend to cook it. So yeah, my friends really got into canning everything. I'm sort of still at the freezing stage.
But this is it. I mean, we used to do all of this, the salting of meats, the canning of various vegetables. We took back responsibility. Well, we had responsibility for our own food, and we knew other people in the small communities, the villages and small towns, who did things. And it was a wonderful, I think, a wonderful way of being involved with what you eat and the people around you. We've lost a lot of that, which is community. But it looks like we're being pushed into coming back to that, which I think is very good.
In a way, you've got to be thankful for what's happened over the last few years because it was a catalyst to make us give us a shake and wake up and start to realise things again.
No, absolutely. I mean, as I said before we recorded, to me, it's like the last 80 years has been an experiment. And we've learnt a lot from that experiment, but I wouldn't like to repeat it. Thank you very much. Let's pick up from where we were in the 1940s. But the technology, of course, is very useful. So it's using it for our advantage rather than blanding everything down into utilitarian nonsense.
I think a lot of the technology was already there. It's just been suppressed. I think for a long time. One frequency. I mean, it's not even technology. It's frequency, vibration, and sound. Those three
frequency,
things.
vibration, and sound. There you go. Well, good luck. Keep in touch and let us know how you go. And we'll come back in 6 months' time and see. That there you are delivering veg boxes all around the world, not around the world, around the community, growing all your own stuff and courgettes a 10 a penny.
Oh God, please don't talk to me about courgettes.
Courgette soup, courgette for dinner, courgette for
Oh,
breakfast
everything.
cereal. But listen, it's been wonderful to talk to you. Thank you so much for coming on. As I say, the link is in the description. So if you're interested in getting in touch and you're in that area, or you want some help and advice, or you've got some help and advice, this is what this is all about. It's networking and sharing what we know. So I'll be back in the very soon future with more monologues and some amazing guests. But in the meantime, thank you for watching. Thanks to Paul and Ren. It's very nice to have you on the show. And I'll be back soon. Till then, bye-bye. And if I can find the off button, I will turn it off.